You've said before that the U.S. would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy.
Did you see that? Did you?
Good evening, people. Welcome to the Brews at 10 here on my left eye. I'm your host, Lefty. You're all very welcome here tonight. How are you brewing? Octo, good to see you in the chat. As always. Solidari-Tea to you, brother. So yes, coming up this evening, the Gaza ceasefire crisis, as it were, deepens. Trump's been adding fuel to the fire, stoking the flames, as it were. In an unbelievable fact, it just gets relentlessly worse, week after week, month after month, year after year. Dr. Davies, great to see you in the chat as well. Solidari-Tea, thanks for throwing up the Palestine flag, of course. Updates on those developments to come. Updates on a few other stories that we talked about yesterday as well, including Labour suspensions. 2 Labour MPs have been suspended, had the whip removed, and now 11 councillors have gone. Having a little look at that, and a few other updates as well. But I hope you're all having a good evening so far. Please let me know how you're doing in the chat or in the comments if you're watching back on a replay. And make sure that you've smashed the thumbs up button, people. That'd be awesome. So yeah, a bit of global politics, a bit of UK politics coming up, of course. If you're not familiar with the channel here at My Left Eye, all about politics and society from a left-wing perspective. Oh, Doc, that does sound like an unenviable task. Unenviable, I should say. Hope it's all well now that you've done that, though. Worth the effort. Thanks for choosing to relax with us here on the Brews at 10. After a hard day's grafting at the drains. Very good, Octo. Very good. In fact, I'm going to bring up the pop-up chat window in just a moment. Just want to give an obligatory thanks to all the members, of course, as I like to do at the start of every live stream. We've got a few new names on the list as well, thanks to those of you who gifted memberships on yesterday's Brews at 10. Solidari-Tea for that. Good to see that glitch has also been rectified as well. The one we were talking about on yesterday's stream. So it's always good to add a few new names to the list. Yeah, quality streaming, quality viewers, quality brew crew. And you can add your name to this list for just 99p, lots of perks. If you want to hit the button and check those out, please do consider supporting the channel in that way. So let's get you folks up in the chat. There we are, good people. And Phil, thank you very much. Well, what a start to the live stream. 10 gifted memberships there. Great to see you as well. Once again, here on the Brews at 10. Solidari-Tea for that gifted membership, those 10 gifted memberships. Very kind of you. Poppy, great to see you back again. And I can see amongst the recipients of the gifted membership, which also indicates that glitch has rectified itself, as I was saying earlier. Good to see Baron von Coxlap back on the members list, so thanks again for that, Phil. I'm not sure if we've ever had the Baron in the chat, but if you are listening, not everybody is able to join the chat or prefers just to listen. But if you are listening, welcome back, Baron, and of course the 9 other recipients of gifted memberships there. Mobius is in the house also. The House of Solidari-Tea, that is. Take a quick sip there myself. Yes, it's only Tuesday and it's already been another batshit crazy week across the pond. I dare say we'll be taking a trip to Batshit Corner during the live stream tonight. Bit of a warm-up teaser at the start as well. It's, Rick from the Young Ones was observing that. I'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they're thems and comrades alike. And I guess also to any household pets who happen to be within earshot who enjoy the Brews at 10 also. I don't have a comedy clip lined up this evening. I'm just going to go straight into the articles and clips and things. Oh, Phil, I'm sure you don't need that much beauty sleep. It's always great to hear from you. So yeah, we're going to get started with Trump's meeting with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, who it looks like went a very long way to give him the finger, in the sense that he rejects Trump's idea that Jordan, Egypt, other countries surrounding Palestine will just be happy to take a huge influx of Palestinians who don't want to leave their country and want to stay there in the first place. But he's drafted up this fantastical, deluded solution that he thinks can somehow lead to peace in the Middle East, but is certainly by definition ethnic cleansing. And he just has zero sense of reality whatsoever, whether it's reporters putting it to him that what he's doing goes against international law. Also, as I just mentioned, the leaders of the other country totally not being up for it, flat out rejecting the idea. He always declares the opposite. Trump always comes out and says, everybody likes it, it's a great idea. Egypt will do this, Jordan will do this. It's like he just scribbled it down on the back of a napkin, probably a KFC napkin, knowing this guy. And he thinks it will be so. He also seems to think he's somehow a success in terms of real estate, that this is some form of real estate deal. And in his own mind, he believes he's the absolute king of real estate. But we'll go into that as we go through the articles. That's just the sort of background from the developments today, but we'll see what the very latest is. I've got a sample from the news conference, not the full thing. I've got a couple of clips. So we'll start with those, and I'm just going to highlight a few other things in the article. Also get into the overall argument. There's not really a lot of debate in it as to who and isn't responsible for Hamas deciding to delay the next hostage release that was scheduled. And now that's led to an ultimatum from Netanyahu and Trump that Hamas have until Saturday to release all of the hostages. So it's It's getting very heated. It's getting very heated. Odin, great to see you in the chat. Hope you well. A good point though, Mobius, just before we go into this clip. That is exactly how Trump sees himself. He thinks he's a king. Now, where America's considered, that is extraordinarily ironic, you have to say. The essential foundation of the basis of American legislation is to prevent dictators, tyrants. This is on paper, of course. And now here we are, 2025. And Trump thinks he can act with unlimited power. There is no due process. He just has to sign executive orders. Forget about the House of Representatives. Forget about the Senate. But it is, of course, like everything else, fantastical and deluded, as I just said. Yes, Oxo, he thinks he's king of the world. And that he can just point at a map and say, this should go here, these people should go there. We're going to make them go there, whether they want to or not. We're going to change the name of this. We're going to buy that country. It's an absolute crock. It's a nonsense. I believe I heard earlier today that Google Maps have officially changed, the American version have officially changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico to Mexico. Not to Mexico, to the Gulf of America. Who wrote this script? I want them fired immediately. No, the microphone's not on. Oh, okay. So, people. Yeah, good point there, Pope. He takes all that Emperor, God, King shite to heart. Absolute bag of shites. Indeed. A loony. Right, let's get into it then. If you've not seen the full news conference or any clips from it, strap yourselves in, people. There's some absolute face palmers in here. Face palm alerts, trigger alerts, warning. You might, if you're holding your cup of Solidari-Tea, you might just want to set it to one side for a moment, lest you spit tea all over your relative devices in shock. So just turn down the background music and let's see what's happening, people. I was subjected to the full conference myself, but I'm just going to use a couple of clips from it for now. This is unbelievable.
You've said before that the U.S. would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No.
They're not going to buy it, they'll just have it. And they're not going to pay anything for it. This is essential to note.
Reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it.
They're going to take it. They're going to take it. And he's not referring to similar proposals that he made to Greenland to buy them. He just said very clearly that that's not the case, but they will take it. So if it's not going to be financially or economically, can you, good people, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they, thems and comrades alike, think of any other way that a nation acquires another nation? If you want massive air quotes over acquires. Boots on the ground.
We're going to get it going eventually where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it could be a diamond. It could be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East. And you're going to have peace. It's going to bring peace in the Middle East. Gaza, the way it is right now, every 10 years, you're going to have the same thing happening. I've watched it so long.
Well, I'll tell you what happens every now and then as well, Donald. Every now and then, America decide to interfere in the Middle East, and they say that whatever operation, invasion, occupation it is that they're either taking part in directly or supporting will bring peace to the Middle East. And we've heard it since time immemorial. Whether it's Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, whichever country it is, whichever leader that America wants to dispose, it's always, this will bring peace to the Middle East. And it's that absolutely messed up concept that war brings peace, that conflict brings peace. No, it doesn't. It stokes the exact opposite. He's talking about invading, displacing a foreign nation, which is absolutely the opposite of a peaceful thing to do. And he doesn't even want to address the huge elephant in the room, which is that it's Israel that are the instigators of all this, where this specific issue's concerned. And they always have been the oppressors, the instigators. The removal of Palestinians isn't going to resolve that. It's their right to live in that country. It's their sovereign territory. This is a man who is against migration. And how many times have we heard him go on about it in his previous term, as well as the one that he's in now, whether it's Canada or Mexico. And now he's trying to incite a mass migration of 2 million Palestinians, who first of all have that absolute right to stay there because it's their home. Secondly, the idea has been rejected outright by the surrounding countries, including Jordan, who's the King of Jordan's sat just to the left of Trump at the conference. And they already hold, that Jordan, that is, already hold well over 1.5 million refugees from Palestine, from previous assaults on Palestine. Because we all know this didn't start on October the 7th, people. This has been going on for 80 years. To the extent that Jordanian representatives and citizens have said that it would cause an economic collapse. Because Jordan's teetering on the brink of collapse anyway. It's going to be an absolute shit show if that happens. So he's trying to do it the lazy way. And, oh yeah, Jordan have taken in so many before. I'll make them happy to do it again. And if they're not happy to do it again, which they in reality are not, then he threatens to sanction them, or not sanction them, remove aid. Over $1.5 billion worth of aid he's threatening to remove. That's the way he does business, so to speak. He thinks he's such a successful business person, but that is how he does business. And I'm not sure if it's in this clip. It's in another part of the interview. When you look at that strategy, when you look at those tactics, it beggars belief. When you look at all of that combined, and then you hear him say that Hamas are the bullies in this situation, which is something he said in a separate part of the interview. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's in this clip. But in the most narcissistic fashion imaginable, he accuses Hamas of things that the United States are clearly culpable of, and also Israel. He's literally just said to the reporter, we are going to take ownership of another country against the will of its people, displace them, displace 2 million of them, and do you know what? They're all bullies. Like, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
All the death and destruction of Gaza. The civilization's been wiped out in Gaza. No, it's going to be a tremendous thing. It's fronting on the sea. It's going to be a great economic development job. It's going to put people to work, a lot of people to work, and those people are all going to be from the Middle East.
And just to follow up with one on that for King Abdullah, can you clarify again, sir, how do you feel about the U.S. taking Gaza, as the president said?
Well, again, this is something that we, as Arabs, will be coming to the United States with something that we're going to talk about later to discuss all these options.
And Mr. President,
Which just turned out to be a no. It's to discuss the options. No. Let's discuss how many different ways you can tell Donald Trump no. And that's a good point there in the chat. This shade of orange that Donald Trump is currently wearing is ridiculous. That was one thing I noticed originally watching news conference. A good point though, Morbius. Trump does probably think that the nation of Jordan has got something to do with the NBA, National Basketball Association. Here's a pop fact for you, people. Bit of trivia. Michael Jordan, who, obviously that's who you're referring to there, Morbius. Michael Jordan, the former NBA 6-time champion, I believe, basketball player, has more money than the country Jordan. So just going back to what I was saying about the retraction of aid from USA to Jordan, you start to get a sense of just how significant $1.5 billion is when a professional sports player has more wealth than your country. But I guess Trump just wants to look like he's trying to be diplomatic. Bit of a wasted journey for King Abdullah of Jordan, perhaps just to appease Trump a little bit by doing this conference. Where Egypt's concerned, I just want to quickly say before we carry on with the clip, they have said in very clear terms that they want to rebuild Gaza without displacement of any of the citizens whatsoever. At the moment, the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, has offered to take in somewhere around 2,000 Palestinian children But from a population of 2 million, that's nothing. That's nothing like what Trump is proposing. But those numbers are just a drop in the ocean from the overall population, so it's not going to plan, and it won't go to plan because it's a batshit crazy plan.
It under what authority? It is sovereign territory.
Under the U.S. authority.
And Mr. President, would you see
That bit there, that part there, wow. And what I really couldn't stand, I remember earlier watching it live, was how there was no follow-up to that part. I'll replay it. Now I'll just go back a few seconds. But asking Trump under what authority he's going to carry out his plan.
Follow up with one on that for King Abdullah. Can you clarify again, sir, how do you...
This is something that we, as Arabs, will be coming to the United States with something that we're going to talk about later to discuss all these options.
And Mr. President, take it under what authority? It is sovereign territory.
Under the U.S. authority.
Under the US authority. Under the US authority. It's sovereign territory. Under what authority? Under the US authority. What he's saying there, without actually saying it, is bollocks to the United Nations, bollocks to international law, bollocks to the Geneva Convention, Article 49, specifically. He thinks he's king. He thinks he's king. Who in the bloody hell does he... No, it's beyond king. Emperor. He thinks he's an emperor. And I guess when the chips are down, when you look at the facts of the matter, that might technically be accurate. The United States is but an unnamed, undefined empire. It acts like an empire. It just doesn't call itself an empire. The same way that countries just invade other countries nowadays. They don't officially declare war and this sort of thing. These are the methods used in the 21st century, certainly. It's nuts. It's nuts. But here we are. But here we are. 4 more years of this crap. Wow.
Mr. President, would you seek to personally develop property in Gaza after this happens?
No. I've had a great career in real estate.
I've had a great career in real estate. Yeah, look at that. Look how well those casinos went. And all the other bits. What about Trump's stakes? How did that go? I'll tell you how it went, Donald. It went into the ground like a fucking dart. And the only way that he's survived is by overstating his wealth. By nefarious means. Continuing to borrow and borrow. How did the golf course in Scotland go, Donald? How was that real estate deal? It's just everything is the exact opposite of the reality. Everything that comes out of his mouth is the mirror opposite, the polar opposite of reality. He's sitting there saying, everyone loves this idea. It's going to go really well. And it's coming up on the live news feed. Egypt rejects idea. Jordan reject the idea. Politics Clive, Bird's Nest Rapfest, great to see you in the chat as well. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's crack on through this. I've had a... Oh, God. His record speaks for itself.
But Mr.
I don't-
President,
I don't-
your team.
You know, when you've done what I've done in the last number of years, including the 4 years that we should have been doing something else.
Do you mean being convicted of felonies and that sort of thing? Being dragged in and out of courts? You're a sex criminal? That kind of thing? No? Is that what you're referring to? Do you want us to look at that? You spurred on an unprecedented insurrection of the Capitol building and refused to leave, refused to step down. Are those the things you're referring to when we look at what you've done over the years? I mean, I could go on.
Frankly, because people see that now for sure. But when you've done what I've done, you can just do more good for people when you're president. When you're president, we can do things. This is all things that should have been done, but actually things that shouldn't have had to be done. Gaza, absolutely, it would have been so great if the Biden administration would have started this. But actually, in all fairness to them, it was. They should have never let it happen. It did happen. And because of the fact that they let this happen, this catastrophe of October 7th, something like this becomes practical and very real. I mean,
It's been going on since 1948, Donald. And certainly the very worst parts of it since 1967 as well. This was happening way before the Biden-Harris administration got into office. Just trying to take a cheap political potshot there. That was the catalyst for Hamas's counter-offensive on October the 7th. Nuts.
the development and all of the things that I've talked about with respect to the Gaza Strip. If you didn't have the October 7th catastrophe, and it was a horrible catastrophe.
It certainly was. Hearing about the Hannibal Directive was certainly sickening for me, as Yoav Gallant himself was describing recently. And the Israeli army firing upon its own citizens, I think that's absolutely disgusting, as well as everything that Israel has done since then. But of course, that's just more narcissism, trying to let Israel play the victim when in fact they're the oppressor. And this, it all began on October the 7th. Crap has got to go. It's got to go.
Then probably you wouldn't be talking about that. But the only thing I can say is this is going to bring stability and peace to the Middle East. And ultimately, when it's developed, which will be in quite a while from now, because we want to let things calm down. But
we've seen the map, Donald. We've seen the map that Netanyahu held up at the United Nations to the people, minority crowd who hadn't walked out in disgust at his attendance, of what his intentions are for the so-called wider greater state of Israel, which includes annexing all of Palestine, Lebanon and other surrounding countries. We've seen it. We've seen it. Don't act like we've not seen it. That does not look like something that's peaceful. It looks like what it is. It's authoritarian. It's fascism. It's far-right dictatorship is what it is. Peace? No, absolutely not. America, overall, economically, does not want or like peace. It is the main player in the industrial war complex, which requires perpetual conflict and war throughout the world, because so much of their economy is based on arms sales. If there was world peace tomorrow, America would be in even further economic decline because they've chosen to base their economy around that. Let's see what you're all saying in the chat there, people. That's more or less it for the clip I've got. Good point, Bird's Nest. He's pretty much acting like a mobster. Thinks he's a mobster. The King of New York. Or King of the World, as we were saying earlier. And yes, dangling the promises of stability like a carrot in front of a donkey. Good point. But we hear it all the time. Oh, we've just got to do this one overthrowing of a country. We've got to have just one coup against a leader of a foreign nation, and then there'll be stability. Every time. Every time. I agree with that point too. Phil, the Democrat Party in America have lurched far to the right. And I'm sure that's what cost them the election. Yeah, all of his casinos went bankrupt as far as I'm aware as well. Another failed venture. If anyone's watching or listening to this on a history documentary or whatever in 50 years, I don't know how in the hell we ended up in this situation either. But here we are. So let's just look at a couple of other latest bits of news where that's concerned. And then I'm going to talk about some statistics, if you want to know who's responsible for breaking the ceasefire. Spoiler alert, it's Israel. So I'll just head over to the screen. Yeah, now this ceasefire is in a precarious position, as described. I went over some of the details earlier. I should also mention that Houthi rebels have said that they are standing by to attack Israel if they start to attack Gaza again. There is now this Saturday deadline, which was the next scheduled hostage release as part of the ceasefire. However, obviously on Monday, Hamas said it will suspend the hostage release. And Trump responded by saying that hell would break out if all of the hostages were not released by midday on Saturday. Israel's cabinet had like a 4-hour meeting earlier on today. So yeah, I mentioned Egypt earlier said that they don't want to displace any Palestinians in the rebuilding of Gaza, and they put out a statement and they say its plans will put forward a comprehensive vision for the survival of Palestinians that is consistent with the legitimate and legal rights. You see? Some people are aware of international law, so it seems. The statement went on to say that any vision or plan for what happens next in the region should avoid jeopardising the gains of peace. Early when pressed on Trump's plans to take over Gaza, King Abdullah of Jordan said Egypt would be putting forward a plan on working with the United States. Not according to that. UN Secretary Antonio Guterres has urged the two sides to ensure the ceasefire deal continues to hold. And he also says both sides must fully abide by their commitments in the ceasefire agreements and resume serious negotiations in Doha for the second phase. We're still in phase one, of course. These protests are still continuing in Tel Aviv. There are sections of the Israeli population who are waking up now and realising that Trump's had no concern for the hostages whatsoever, like we discussed on yesterday's live stream. Hamas do still say that they're committed to the ceasefire, it says there. That was another thing he said. He said he doesn't think that Hamas will meet the deadline. So then why did he set the deadline in the first place? You've got till Saturday midday to do this thing that I don't think you're going to do. That's some sort of ultimatum there. Really is. So those are most of the other points. And I'll just finish with this, because then I'm going to move on to some other statistics, but a reminder of what was supposed to happen during stage one. We're still in stage one, like I said. Obviously, complete ceasefire, there hasn't been. Hamas to release a total of 33 hostages, women, including female soldiers, children, some older men and the sick, at regular intervals. Israel to release around 1,900 prisoners. Israel forces to leave the populated areas. Displaced Palestinian civilians to be allowed to return to their neighbourhoods. Hundreds of aid lorries to be allowed into Gaza each day. It also says Israeli troops would remain in Gaza's border areas, including the southern Philadelphia corridor, but would leave the Netzarim corridor, which is a military zone cutting off the north of Gaza from the south. However, it hasn't quite gone that way, people. Let's see what's actually happened. So the agreed amount of aid was 12,000 trucks. There have been 8,500. 50 fuel trucks per day, there's only been 15 per day. 60,000 mobile houses to be built, not a single one has been built. And also 200,000 tents, but only 10% of the tents have been allowed to enter. So that's a shortfall of 3,500 aid trucks, a shortfall of 35 fuel trucks per day, a complete absence of mobile houses, and a shortfall of 180,000 tents. That's according to Gaza Media Office. And then Hamas say, we're not going to release the next set of hostages unless you meet your end of the bargain. And Israel accused them of breaking the ceasefire agreement. Because that's all they ever do, is accuse the other side of something that they're actually guilty of. Super Tiny, great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Just another update where that's concerned. You might remember yesterday I showed a clip of Youth Demands action at Glasgow Uni. This is it again. I'll just shrink that down a bit. So that we can see the latest actions.
In arms investments, they have made us all complicit. Our tuition fees are going directly to causing a genocide in Palestine. We are all complicit. All Glasgow Uni students are complicit. It's our job to stand up and demand a trade embargo with Israel and the UK in order to prevent further complicity of the UK with the Palestinian genocide. Go to youthcommand.org today.
Apologies for the quiet audio there, I hope you could read the subtitles. Essentially calling for divestment for universities to move away from funding a genocide, of course, as we said yesterday. So it's just a clip of the action for any of you who weren't with us then, but I do have an update. And Hannah, who attends the university, who was speaking in the clip there, has been banned from the university simply for opposing a genocide. So unfortunately, not great news, but that's the latest on the situation. I'm sure that they obviously understood that was a risk when carrying out the action. But I do have some slightly positive news, if you want something a little more uplifting. Just off of the back of recent events and salutes and attendance at far-right party rallies, for example. That now seems to have had a bearing on Tesla's stock value. Look at this. So this is just from today. It's down a whopping 5.77%. Now, whilst I should carefully cite that My Left Eye isn't a channel that offers official financial advice, I've said for some time you should short everything this guy touches because it just crashes and burns. And that's been a continuing trend over recent weeks, but also accelerated recently. Unlucky Elon. Okay, people, I'm going to move on in just one moment. Just need to quickly get something lined up. Please do bear with. So yeah, back over to UK politics now. And 11 Labour councillors have been suspended for this WhatsApp group with these awful messages inside of it. I've got a list here, just a quick update on that. We spoke about the 2 MPs that have been suspended as well yesterday, so please do check that out if you weren't with us. Well, this is the full list. Claire Reid, Jack Naylor, George Newton, excuse me, Vincent Ritchie, Charlotte Martin, Alison Gwynn, George Jones, Brenda Warrington, Denise Ward, Dave Sedgwick, who's part of Stockport Council, and Councillor Holly McCormack, who's also part of Stockport Council. The others are all from Greater Manchester. Stockport is in Cheshire. Just for those of you who aren't familiar with the local geography, most of these, one of the MPs, I should say, who's involved represents Denton and Gorton here in Manchester, so very much a northwest news event. And so it just goes to show that Labour's rotten to the core. But Labour get Tory. But now, increasingly so, you get Reform as well. And that's also why they've taken a dive in the polls. We saw a couple of constituency polls earlier. I saw another one today which showed an average of various different polls, still showing Reform 1 point in front of Labour. Turns out that imitating their anti-immigration policy, £400 million they've spent on it, as well as those deportations that they've been lording around for the last 48 hours. All it's amassed to is the opposite of the desired effect. And that is why you never pander to the far right, because you will lose popularity amongst your original support, which Labour are far, far down the road from at this point in time, where democratic socialism is concerned. So you lose votes from your core voters, but you don't gain any votes from the people that you're trying to appeal to, because there's already a choice there, and in this case, it's Reform. Another thing worth note is that Labour also tiptoeing away from trans issues, supporting trans rights, for example, as well. It's not just immigration in this case, where they're again, excuse me, trying to appeal to the far right, people who would normally go and vote for Reform. This is appalling. It's just absolutely appalling how far they're going to try and appeal to this section of the demographic. But also on the flip side, there was a debate in Parliament today, the Borders Security Bill, which you would imagine would be a top priority for the likes of Reform. That's their number one issue, immigration, isn't it? Yeah? Do you know how many of the 5 MPs showed up to the debate? Not a one. Not a one. So it's the Border Securities Bill, a piece of legislation that you normally imagine they can't wait to sink their teeth into, and they didn't even bother to show up at the debate. But when they're led by a man who never even steps foot inside his own constituency, that's hardly surprising. And speaking of which, I have managed to dig up that clip that I mentioned yesterday, the one from the Trade Union Congress, TUC. They sent someone down there to interview voters in Clacton about workers' rights. So I'm going to be taking a look at that in just a moment. Are you right there, Odin Allfather, about the gay and trans rights being used as a wedge issue? Whereas, all of the ills in our society are the cause of corporate greed, capitalism, environmental destruction, not people wanting to change the pronouns. The same way that the enemy does not come by small boats, they come by private jets. But they've had to fabricate that. I've mentioned so many times this war on woke. I think it was Musk who first described it as the woke mind virus. It's just all been completely fabricated as an enemy, to create an enemy that either doesn't exist or is no threat to society at all. But also to try and distort the syntax, the language. If they say it enough times, it will hopefully feed into mainstream syntax, and unfortunately that's happened. You see mainstream media outlets mentioning anti-woke agendas, the war on woke, so many times. They actually entertain the fabrication and the lie. Let's just get rid of these suspended councillors. Sorry, I've got hanging up for a while. But they go on to entertain it, and that almost legitimises it as far as the far right are concerned. Because the mainstream media are talking about it, they think it's a legitimate thing. But the real division is, of course, in the wealth gap. Yes, so Labour are happy to jump on that bandwagon as well, like I was saying, and remove previously proposed support for gay and trans rights. And just a final thing on the woke thing, we all know that they say they're anti-woke because if they said they're anti-progressive, then that would expose them as the right-wing dickheads that they actually are. Speaking of right-wing dickheads, I'm gonna have to get a meme up for this one. Where's he gone? So yeah, this TUC clip, I'll go through that now. It's like one of those set-up ones as well.
Nigel? No.
Really?
I'll have a word with him.
I'm here in Clacton to see what Nigel Farage's constituency has to say about current employment practices. Do you think that companies should be allowed to sack you unless you agree to worse pay and worse conditions?
No.
No.
No, they should not be able to do that.
Do you think that if you're working for a company for less than 2 years,
Right.
they have the right to dismiss you without any good reason?
No.
No.
Well, how can they sack you if they ain't got a good reason?
Of course not.
Okay, so next one. Do you think that company should be able to decide the hours you work based on what suits them?
No.
No.
It just happened to me. Hours cut down.
It's another no.
It's another no. Okay, final question. Do you think that if you are sick, that you should go without pay for 3 days?
No, you should be paid, shouldn't you?
No, it's out of order because you can't control being sick.
No, that's not fair.
But there is some good news. So there is a bill proposed in Parliament right now.
Right.
That is to get rid of all these bad practices.
That would be good.
Any idea someone who voted against the bill?
Business people, obviously.
The employer.
Company owners.
Shall I give you a clue? Your MP.
Nigel? No.
Really?
Your MP.
Oh.
That is a surprise, big surprise.
I did think he was more for the people and more for human rights than that.
Are you surprised?
I am really surprised because I thought he was working for the public.
Next time he brings his tack around and waving at people, I'll just say to him, hang on a minute, mate, I want to speak to you.
Well, there you go. Where do they find these people? Just sort of think he's more for the people and for human rights. Did they ever listen to anything he's ever said, like in history? Or maybe not. Well, yeah, they fell for it. Now he's their MP, and they're gonna suffer for it. Obviously, he's never there. And he's voted against employment rights, for a start. And I guess more disappointment to come where Farage is concerned. I'll catch you soon, Sani. Yeah, you found him in Clacton. Good point, Morbius. Don't think I've ever been to Clacton. Let us know if you are from Clacton. Wow. And yeah, that's also a good point about the geography of it. It's not just Clacton, where there's rundown areas. It's endemic throughout the country, here in the northwest, all over the place. And that's always what happens with far-right parties. They try to put the carrot on the stick, offer hope. They'll, yeah. All of that, and it's a grift. We know that Farage is a grifter. But it wasn't exactly well hidden what his true motives are, and that he has never been a man of the people. We're talking about someone who still supports things like fox hunting, for God's sake, you know. Okay, people. I'm going to be bringing the stream to a close in a few moments. Just want to see who might be able to redirect into. But yeah, it's been good to see you this evening. Good to catch up with the latest on those stories. I'll be back tomorrow, of course, for PMQs. We could have a new contender in the game as well. So while I'm looking where to raid, I just want to bring up the members list again. Just have to take the chat off for a moment. And thanks again for the gifted memberships this evening also. I will be updating that list as well for tomorrow. Please make sure you've hit the thumbs up button as well on the stream before we part ways this evening. That's a great way of helping out on the algorithm. And if you want to join the list of supporters who you can see right now, then it's just 99 pence for a membership. Lots of perks for you to enjoy. But please do stick around. Let's have a scan. Okay, we've got Helena at No Justice and Kev are both live. I can't remember which of the two we streamed into last. I think it may have been Kev. Yeah, so I was going to throw it up, and you've already pointed out there, Popey, about No Justice. I believe it's No Justice's turn, because it's they quite often collaborate, so they're both on live at the same time when we're finishing the brews at 10. So yeah, please do join me over there in a moment, and if you're not familiar with the channel, make sure that you subscribe. Also, if you're not familiar with Kevin Logan as well, please do check him out as well. Right, so that's all set up. And yeah, I'm going to come over and join you there for a bit myself. You might see me in the chat. I might not be too chatty. I'll be obviously updating the members list, as I just said, and a couple of other things, but I'll certainly be listening in. So give us a shout out when you get there. Alright, all that remains for me to say to anyone who isn't coming over, which I'm sure you all are, But anybody who's watching back on a replay, thanks a lot for listening. I've been your host, Lefty, here on the Brews at 10 on My Left Eye. Take care, everybody, and My Left Eye will be seeing you soon.
You've said before that the U.S. would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy.